What is going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer, Tim Hyde, live on National Signing Day, December 20th, 2023. We have a lot to talk about in the world of Notre Dame football, and we're going to be joined shortly by former Fighting Irish captain and linebacker Mike Goolsby, the three amigos, all together. Mr. Hyde, how are you doing this evening, my friend?
Oh, doing great. I mean, it's National Signing Day. This is an awesome day. Awesome day. I mean, I've been a part of a ton of these, many players over the years signing. It's an awesome day, and I know Mike's going to join us here in a little bit. I know he was at a signing day today in his beautiful city there of Omaha, and it's cool. It's cool when you see the 17, 18-year-old guys who've worked their tails off, classroom, test scores, weight room, playing field, all that good stuff to sign a scholarship. So there's nothing like going to college for free. And I've sat in many parents meetings with parents as freshmen and sophomores, and it's like, do this, do that, change this position, do this, and you're going to college for free. And I've seen it a bunch. So it's an awesome day. And looking forward to talking about a really good, solid Notre Dame football class and get into news upon news upon news, right, Mike? Because it doesn't end. Even today was probably the quietest day in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. So who would have thought signing day is the quietest day we've had?
Yeah, good point. So folks watching live or back on YouTube, please hit the thumbs up on this video. It is always amazing to me, the amount of people who, like Notre Dame fans I'm friends with, will be like, hey, I watch all of your shows, oftentimes not live with you guys. So really appreciative of the folks who catch the replay of the show. And of course, if you're listening via podcast, thank you very much as well. There's definitely going to be a lot of video elements to today's show, but we are sure that you will still find plenty to enjoy from the podcast version of this. So obviously, ton of National Signing Day discussion today. We are going to kind of go through a couple of team items with some coaching staff changes. And I did want to touch on the offensive line for the Sun Bowl, since we have a little bit more information on that. And I know Tim Hyde is an O-line junkie. So we're going to dive into some of those items. But first, we're going to hear from a sponsor of ours, and that is, of course, Rogue Shop, the husband and wife outfit. If you're looking for a last-minute Christmas gift, I don't know if you'll be able to get this in time for Christmas, but maybe if you do like a New Year's gathering or something with some extended family, and you got that one cousin, you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you can go to Rogue Shop and find something for them. Mr. Rogan's wife, Shara, craft cannabis farmers who specialize in small batch sustainable plant medicine, a true holistic type of small business. They farm and grow everything themselves, do everything by hand. Check them out at rogueshop.com, ROGUE shop.com. They sell everything from CBD, THC, edibles, tinctures, smokables, bath salts, pain creams, topicals, vapes, candles, soaps, and more. So check them out if you have issues sleeping, if you have chronic pain, anxiety, stress issues. Hop on a live chat with the owners, Mr. Rogue and Shar, to answer for them to answer any questions that you have. So use the promo code Blue and Gold, all one word, Blue and Gold, no spaces there, and you will get 10% off your order. So please check that out over at rogueshop.com. Really appreciate them for always sponsoring these shows. So let's bring in Goolsby. Mr. Goolsby, how are you doing, my friend?
What's up, boys? I'm great.
All right. Well, Goolsby, it's good to see you as always. I guess let's just dive into the first bit of news. Jared Parker leaving his post as Notre Dame's offense coordinator to take the Troy head coaching position. Maybe not so much on like his move. That is what it is, but maybe what it means for Notre Dame's offense moving forward. We'll go to you first, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, first off, as soon as I heard the news, I'm sure, for Notre Dame fans are rejoicing and stuff like that. When even though the stats are this way and that way towards ranked teams, I'm pretty neutral to that, because Notre Dame has struggled against ranked teams in big games for a long time. So it's nothing we didn't see too much different, I felt, this year. Was my first thought. And then secondly, I'm always thinking of Marcus Freeman. He's the head football coach. What does this mean for him and his program? And you know what? I instantly thought of a reboot. It's almost like a reboot for him after 2 years. He gets hired this is always kind of glossed over, but he's not the head football coach without Tommy Rees and Matt Balis. Those guys stay aboard. You can shake your head, Mike. He's not hired unless those guys. It's just you read between the lines. He got hired. It was kind of, hey, everyone on, stay on board, help this young coach out, roll from there. And now those two guys are gone. So he's obviously, his first, I guess you could say first true OC since last year was a mess of some sort or however it went. He did interview 3 guys. He could have hired any of those 3 before he went with Parker and went from there. And then obviously the strength coach had just got announced. So I kind of look at it like a little mini reboot after 2 years for Freeman. It's basically his program when you really look at it now with everyone on that staff. The strength staff's going to be completely redone when you do a little background on the new strength coach compared to the way Matt Balis did things. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to seeing how it rolls for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like, Tim, that reboot is done by now. It's like, I don't think there's anything left to change other than like the laundry soap they're using. Like maybe, are they going to switch out the equipment manager, So yeah, hopefully we're done with news. It'd be nice to find some consistent stability. The Parker thing is really interesting, fellas, because it's like nobody liked Rees either, Tim, right? And you could say what you want about him as a recruiter and a developer, but Tim, you and I both feel pretty strongly that. What do you?
Sorry, I'm telling Tim to check his phone.
Oh, then just yeah. So no, but nobody liked Rees as a play caller. Tim, you and I kind of did. So then you get Parker, who in a lot of ways statistically the offense was better, but I think people liked him, fans liked him less than Rees. I talked to a couple people, a couple friends of the program, some of that kind of Patreon stuff, and the word incompetent was thrown around with Parker. And I was like, that's a pretty strong word to use when you talk about somebody's ability. So, Parker, I think, was a really solid guy. He was thrust into that role. It's not like he was really raising his hand. He was, Tim, this, second or third down the list in terms of choices. He's kind of thrust into that role. I think he did a serviceable job against poor teams, as you touched on, Tim. And it just really felt like in those big games, there was a pucker factor and just not a lot of confidence in terms of, as he's going down his play sheet, what to do. A lot of back and forth with coaching staff on the headset. So hopefully the next guy you bring in, I'd like to see a little bit more of that gray hair factor that you have in an Al Golden. I'd love to see that reflected on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, real quick on the the Parker thing. Yeah, I mean, you kind of got thrown in and things of that nature, but people were going crazy all year long when it comes to, oh, we're not doing this against ranked teams. And it's like, man, I mean, there's some days at work where I'm working the study hall with kids, so I could get on Mr. Google and research. And there's not a hell of a lot of OCs in the last 20 years that have been, outside of Charlie Weiss, have been racking up 30 plus points in ranked games. So it's and that's what was probably so frustrating. And obviously Parker got so much of the brunt of their criticism because they didn't get Andy Ludwig. They interviewed Lewis, when he was with the head coach, and he goes to Colorado. Heck, now he's a head coach again. So how crazy is that? And then obviously the Colin Klein interviewed on campus and everything, and now he's the OC at A&M. So everyone's just losing their mind, like, what the heck? All these guys are getting good gigs, and we still got Parker. So I think a lot of that was he got so much of the blame. And then we obviously always go into Sam Hartman, his factor. I was frustrated because he didn't do so much of the stuff that he was successful at Wake. The wide receiver room was just a mess. Why do people just always lose track of that? It was a mess. So the whole season was. So I was talking to Singer last week, was just like blah. I mean, seriously, it was just a frustrating 9-3. It's a good football team. I thought Notre Dame was a solid football team this year. It just weren't nothing spectacular, and that showed in the big games outside of SC.
Unless either of you feel very strongly about wanting to talk about, the potential who they go for or what you want that to see? I want to move on to something else.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just bounce real quick off Goolsby. I would love, I mean, yeah. I mean, if Marcus Freeman can get, obviously the big name out there is Denbrock, who's been around the block, 106 times. If they could get him, because that's Al Golden on offense, and you got Al Golden on defense. You got two of the graybeards, basically, guys that have been in a ton of wars on the college football, coaching circles, and you got two guys that could basically head coaches of their own court. You got two old coordinators that have been around and have done it multiple times. So that would be awesome if they could get Denbrock, who hasn't signed his contract. I know it's been out reported he hasn't signed it. If they could steal him away from Brian Kelly, which, by the way, Brian Kelly fires him. So why the hell does he want to stay with Brian Kelly? He fired him after back when he was at Notre Dame before he went to Cincinnati. But how about that? Just real quick, if he could get Denbrock, who is the OC for Fickle, Freeman's the DC for Fickle, it's literally the Cincinnati Bearcats outside of one position? Because Chad Bowden was worked in the recruiting offices as well at Cincinnati, right, Mike? For Freeman, I believe. So you got all these Bearcat dudes coming into South Bend. So I find that fascinating. If they could pull this Denbrock steal away, is what it is.
Yeah, no, I agree. And we've talked about this for years. You brought Freeman in for the charisma and the ability to recruit and to be the face of the program. So yeah, if he can slough it off, isn't the right phrase, but if he can slough off the operations to two established, experienced guys, he can just kind of continue to not be a hype man, Tim, but continue to work on Notre Dame's brand and the relevance and the recruiting. I mean, I don't see that being a bad thing. And then he could continue to just glean some things and football wisdom from those older guys as time passes.
Yeah, Denbrock would bring some of that gray hair factor. Goolsby, I love that term we've been using for a little while. He's 59 years old. And one other thing that I want to touch on here before we talk about Lauren Landau, and then, of course, we need to get into signing day stuff soon, is Notre Dame has a tight ends coach and offensive coordinator opening here, and they need one person for that. So someone like Denbrock, if it is him, I have a personally hard time seeing that happening. We'll see. He's definitely a name that the Marcus Freeman and company are looking at. He's even been a tight ends coach at Notre Dame, so that could work. But also, Gino Guidugli, before he came to Notre Dame, was the tight ends coach at Wisconsin, I think, for a month. But would he be okay with moving to tight ends if Notre Dame brought in a traditional offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach for that one role? So just something to kind of be aware of.
To move on, I was there when Denbrock was at his first go around at Notre Dame. So he's he's just like a rock solid dude, type of guy you could crush 6 years old. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Mike. Yeah, you just saying, when you said rock solid, I got excited because I've met him a handful of times on the recruiting trail, and just the dude will sit down and talk Notre Dame football with you for an hour. Unbelievable dude. You got him. There's so many at Notre Dame, as we've said, with Madison and Charlie Strong, but yeah, Mike Denbrock's a straight up and just hang out and chit chat with him. He's great dude.
Not a lot of ego that accompanies a guy with his resume. Last thought, boys, I just think about the excitement with a CJ Carr, the dynamic playmaking ability that accompanies a Deuce Knight. I want a dedicated quarterbacks coach. So however this thing plays itself out, we don't want to rob Peter to pay Paul. You know what I'm saying? So whatever role Gino falls into, I want to make sure that we have a quarterbacks coach.
Sure. Mike, we really wanted to go to you on Lauren Landau and this hire for Notre Dame. Thoughts on this? Really, you can go wherever you want with this, Mike.
I wrote down 5 thoughts. Tim, anytime there's a connection on your coaching staff to the NFL, that's a good thing. Okay, so just at face value, that's a good thing. I think that helps in recruiting. And I wrestle with the new age approach to sports performance training and then the old school kind of prison mentality that I came up with. My gym in high school didn't even have running water, and I trained with Francis Rudiger, who is Rudy from the Rudy, that's his brother. And we did a lot of powerlifting. The weights were rusty. That's what I grew up with at Joliet Catholic. So a part of me is always going to want that piece. But I think that new age thing could help with recruiting because kids are different now. I mean, I'm a dinosaur. What is this? I don't have the answer, just a question. Maybe you guys do. What is the tie-in to like a new upgraded facility? Moving on. I guess my last thought, you as a football player, you really bond with your strength coach and your strength staff. I mean, you spend the most time with those guys. In the way that this is played out, there's a big enough gap in terms of when Bayless left and when you bring in Coach Landau. So it's not like, I mean, I'm telling you, that bond is real. So like if Coach Landau was hired 2-3 weeks later after Bayless had departed, you'd almost feel like you were cheating on Coach Bayless. You know what I mean? So I think there's been enough time to kind of let the dust settle and embrace that. He's an interesting guy. He's an entrepreneur. You know, he's been in and out of football. It's not like he's just was a football player, then went into training. Like, he's been around, trained multiple sports, different age groups. I love, that kind of varied background that he has. The only concern I have, Tim, is he's kind of like a performance coach, like kind of a plyometric guy. And so much of the offseason is training is just frickin' pushing weight, dude, moving metal. So it's like, how does he blend in that just hardcore strength component with his background in performance?
Tim?
Yeah, I just wrote down all the little things, which is so much of the things I've thought about. I love the NFL aspect because recruits are just going to be like, oh, who's the new strength coach? I don't know. This guy's worked with 25, all pros, individually trained all these guys. I mean, his list is like crazy. And what I love is people go to him. So he's a known dude. I mean, he's a resource. And I was talking about this on the message boards with Guy when Tommy Moffitt got hired at A&M a week ago. Tommy Moffitt's like one of the Mount Rushmore guys when it comes to strength and conditioning. And now you got Landau's one of those guys as well who's been in the industry for 20 years. People know him. I mean, he's trained Olympians, and Olympians want to win. So I find that awesome. The new age, old school, I'm with you, Goolsby. It's like, man, training to me is let's get on the prowlers and let's drive until you throw up and you can't walk anymore. And that was a lot of Matt Bayless. I mean, those guys would run up the hill that they had down the road and he'd kill them. So
it's 4 quarters. It's 4 quarters, Tim. You're training for 4 quarters, right? I mean,
exactly. That's Mickey Mariotti, who's probably going to be on the Mount Rushmore someday. His mindset of the way he trains. I mean, I'm going to destroy your ass, and then you figure it out from there. He is very new age, but man, some of that stuff could click in recruiting and whatnot. I wrote down the individual. He's going to love the individual. Freeman's a big team guy, obviously, but man, when you really listen to Freeman, he really focuses on those individuals collectively as a team. So I find that interesting. New facility is all about meals, the new cafeteria that they're going to build. That's the strength coach, man. I mean, he's all meals when you do some research on him. The bonding part is interesting because perfect what you said, Mike, is as a strength coach, especially me as a high school head football coach and things of that nature. I mean, I was the strength coach. It's like, boom, it's my team, my program. I'm going to kill you guys. We're going to get ready to play 4 quarters of football. And he's been a personal trainer, obviously the NFL and things of that nature, but it's building the mind. I mean, let's be honest. When you're playing Division I football, it's building the mind to get ready to play. And I go back to the first game 2 years ago when the guys are pushing the prowlers up the hill and they had CJ Stroud's picture. Remember the picture you saw of Foskey? There was a video that went viral. Foskey pushing the prowler sled. And he had Stroud and the offensive line on the weights, pictures of them taped on as he's getting his mind ready. That was a Bayless thing. So all those things rolled into one. I'm excited because it's new. And that's the real last thing is that this is completely out of the box. He didn't just go to the best strength coach at Clemson or Michigan. I'm sorry, I said Michigan. I'm sorry, but you know what I mean. Out there, a high tech program. He went to a performance guy, someone that's trained high high-end athletes, and that's what I find exciting.
So that's the thing. Working with 100+ kids, that's going to be a challenge for him in terms of programming, because he wants to do programming individual. Christian McCaffrey's, we're going to tweak this, right? Everything is tailored to these specific athletes who are already at the top of their game. Now, I know he's worked with McCaffrey for years and years and years, but that's the thing, is how do you do it in a group setting? That'll be a challenge for him. Not saying he can't do it, but that'll be different for him. And I think what's another, this is something folks might not know, but you're probably going to see a Jeremiah Love will end up training with McCaffrey in the offseason. A lot of that stuff happens, my old agent who's with Athletes First, Brian Murphy, who's a Notre Dame grad. Athletes First is the biggest agency. So I had that kid go out to Oregon and they represent Jalen Ramsey. He's playing corner. So I'm link those two up and have them, spend a weekend running around training. And I think that blends into recruiting. And then the only other thing, Tim, as much as you and I love that old school, and Mickey Marotti would call it like prison lifting. That's what he would kind of call it. I love it, and everything we did was to failure in terms of reps. But at a Notre Dame, and I think that this was where Bayless and Freeman clashed. At a Notre Dame, you're tired because you are physically going to class. You got a lot more on your plate. So maybe it does make sense, in 2024 to scale it back a little, in terms of the just sheer intensity and get more into the science of it. I'm very much open-minded.
Yeah. Just to bounce off that for a quick second, I'm with you. It's exciting. I loved your part of McCaffrey because I'm just screaming recruiting. I mean, we all want Notre Dame to win. You don't win unless you get dudes. And it's these are my guys that I've worked with. I mean, who's to say that he doesn't have those guys show up to campus someday? Because that's what happens, right? And working out, you get old guys coming back, guys that he's trained with. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens and guys get excited. But that's a great point. Jeremiah Love, all Young, all these great running backs, Price, boom. Hey, you have a question? Here's McCaffrey's cell. Give him a call.
It'll happen.
And that is huge in recruiting for Marcus Freeman. And that was the first. I mean, that's my biggest takeaway on this. I think in the landscape is recruiting. His network is huge, and I'm really excited for Freeman in the strength staff.
Lloyd Christmas with the comment says Brady Quinn thinks this guy's all that. Not sure that holds any credence, but interesting. So this is what Brady Quinn had to say about this. Lauren is a world-renowned movement and sports performance coach. I can attest from personal experience, there is no one better suited to fulfill the role and help Notre Dame be the preeminent leader in sports performance. Coach Freeman knocked this one out of the park. I do want to note, it's not strength and conditioning coach or coordinator. It is director of football performance. So it does kind of feel like it's going from that old age of you're the strength coach to director of football performance. Just kind of a note from Mike Singer. But moving along, I wanted to go quickly to the offensive line to talk about a guy that I know you guys are both very excited about. So with Joe Alt and Blake Fisher both not playing in the Sun Bowl, it looks like a battle between Tosh Baker and Emil Wagner, likely Baker at right tackle. And then how about left tackle? The true frost, Charles Jagasaw, who Goolsby did say back when he was signed at Notre Dame and back in the spring, whatever it was, Goolsby was like, he's going to start by the end of the season. And technically correct, Mr. Goolsby. Jagasaw, we're looking at left tackle for the Sun Bowl, and you would have to like his future to be one of those two tackle spots next season. So just real quick on this, boys, because I want to dive into the 2024 class. Thoughts on Jagasaw starting in the Sun Bowl? We'll go to Tim first.
Oh, excited as high hell. I mean, he's a stud. He's an athletic freak. He's huge. Just watch his 5-6 plays at the end of Stanford, and you're like, that's a large human being that can move. His get off was, I know it's only 5 or 6 plays, Stanford and scrub time, but that guy's hyped up. He's energetic. He's excited as high heck. And man, he got off the ball quick as hell. So if he does that for 60 snaps in the Sun Bowl, yeah, he's going to be all right. I went and rewatched his high school film again. Man, he's so damn good. He is so damn good. He's going to be fun. So eyes are going to be trained on him. Just watching him probably too much in the game, but super excited to watch him perform in this game.
I think you could do a whole show on this, but yeah, Tim, he's one of those guys, and we broke this down on Patreon, John and I, like all the kids. And I've said it, and Tim, you would understand this, but like sometimes you can watch a big man get up off the ground and be like, damn, he's athletic. Just watching a guy get off the ground. And Jagasaw is one of those guys. In my mind, I'm happy for Tosh. Tosh, he's another big guy. But I in my mind, I make there's connective tissue between Emil Wagner and Jagasaw. I still contend that Jagasaw is probably best suited to play guard. That's just my opinion. And I'm like, if you could have an Emil Wagner, a Tosh Baker, you maybe pluck a Rocco out and then put a Jagasaw in at guard and Jagasaw Emil on the same side. So when I look at this scenario, I'm like, hey, Emil Wagner, you're talking about meals, Tim. Whatever it takes, put on 10 pounds, would you please? It ain't that difficult. I'm going to do it over Christmas break. You know what I'm saying? It ain't that difficult. We need 10 pounds, brother. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like if you can get Emil Wagner and Jagasaw, Ashton Craig, Schrouth, and then a Baker on the other side. I mean, that's an incredibly athletic offensive line and a lot of big dudes.
Yeah, with Wagner, as I mentioned this last week when we were talking, was people just go re-watch Wagner's senior film. And I mean, as an athlete, as a tall, lean athlete, he's one of the best offensive tackles I've ever seen.
He's NFL. Yeah.
He's a freak as an athlete. So I hope he starts at right tackle because you're going to have two freakish athletes. And I really hope it's them. Nothing against Tosh. I mean, same thing. I'm with you, Goolsby. I'm rooting for him. He's been around. He has stuck around. He hasn't bailed. He hasn't portaled. He hasn't done any of that. Hoping to be one of these tackles because he still has 2 years of eligibility. He has a COVID plus, obviously, a redshirt year. So he still has his 5th and 6th year if he wants. So if he's a starter and he balls out, then great. I mean, I'm all for whoever it is. But athletically, athletes to work around Riley Leonard, Love, Price, Young, and the new wide receiver room, man, 2 freakish athletic tackles in Wagner and Jagasaw would be awesome to see in 24.
Nevertheless, however you configure this, and there's like a couple different ways you could configure this, fellas, but like you could look at it and be like, all 5 of those guys are going to league. Depending on who you plug in where, those guys are on the shelf, which is exciting nonetheless.
I mean, this film is not even real. It is like you watch it, you rewatch some of this stuff, and because it's been a year, and you just laugh. It's like Derby Lambert. You watch his senior film a year from now, and you're just gonna laugh and just be like, it's unbelievable. He is so large and strong. So I'm really excited. I was a little surprised, to be honest with you. I know he'd been on the scout team, reports of stuff like that on scout team all year, but then there was something that leaked out where it had been, I think, one of the buys where he just started kicking butt and it clicked in, and they're just like, holy moly, this guy's, it's starting to sink in. That's the other thing. I mean, he had shoulder surgery, so he didn't even get to wrestle his senior year. So took him a while to get that strength and all that stuff back. And now the dude's a 5-star athlete, just like Emil Wagner was with On3, just 2 5-star tackles.
And good for last thought, Singer.
Yeah.
Good for Coach Freeman for having the stones to roll out a true freshman. Like, I think you need to acknowledge his ability or willingness to take that, risk, I guess. So good for him.
Okay. I do love watching this film because I think this was like a 1-9 team that Jagasaw played on. Offensive line is one of those rare, especially tackles, one of those rare spots on the field where you can absolutely just dominate your position. Doesn't really matter about people around you. Like some of these plays are tackles for loss on Jagasaw Senior's film. You just see him, 15 yards down the field pancaking somebody. So, big fan of Charles Jagasaw, and been able to meet him in person and get to know him off the field. Like he is a heck of a kid too. So I think with that, we're going to dive next into finally signing day. We're 30 minutes in. Let's actually talk some signing day, which is just so much news and really good stuff. So if you're just joining us, please hit the thumbs up on this video. We've already talked about Jared Parker going to Troy, Lauren Landau, the new strength coach, director of football performance, and just talking about Charles Jagusah on that offensive line for the Sun Bowl. So let's hear now from My Perfect Franchise. So I do have some questions for you folks. Are you a displaced corporate executive? Are you wanting to put your career in your own hands? Or maybe you're an experienced entrepreneur wanting to diversify. Well, if you're saying yes to any of these questions, Andy Ludicky can help you out. He's a huge college sports fan and franchise veteran, having owned multiple franchises and businesses. Using Andy's expertise, he's going to help you find your American dream through a very thorough consultation and evaluation process. So give Andy a call at 404-973-9901. Put your life and career in your own hands. And best of all, his services are 100% free to you. So what do you have to lose? Find your perfect franchise at myperfectfranchise.net. Call Andy, 404-973-9901, myperfectfranchise.net. So we'll go to Goolsby first. General impressions of this class. We're not going to dive into rankings, anyone specific.
Oh, what the hell with rankings?
Oh, you know, I got
my general thought is and we can get into specifics, but there's like 4 to 8 dudes in this team where I'm almost looking at it like a draft class in the NFL. So you might draft 7 guys and I might get 3 starters and 1 Pro Bowler. Like that's a great draft. Like I feel like we've got like 4 to 6 to 7, 8-ish Pro Bowlers. There's some kids that I really like. And then there's some curious kids to me. And Tim, I know I've talked to you about moving to a 3-3-5, and I talked about this at length on the Patreon. But some of these athletes that are recruiting on the defensive side of the ball, it doesn't necessarily make sense to me unless there's the potential to move to a 3-3-5 in some form or fashion in the future. Because, I'll stay away from particulars unless you want to go there, Singer. But it's a great class. I love the 2 receivers. I love Keedron Young. I love Sevillano. I like all of the offensive line recruits. So it's a really good class. It's a really good class. And there's some just legit, there's a handful of just studs.
Tim?
Yeah, I mean, it's a solid group when you look at it, but I am going to go to the rankings because I find that fascinating. I love looking at the numbers of what it was. And before the show, I was telling you, Singer, how, I think they came in today number 11. I saw they moved up to 10 a couple hours ago, whatever it is. Some schools are losing dudes. Notre Dame lost none. So Notre Dame's, basically what, number 10 or whatever the latest is. I have no idea if it's even gone up. So, but with that being said, they are the last 3 classes with Marcus Freeman. I've heard Mike Goolsby talk about this a lot with you on Sunday nights, the accumulation of talent, things that is going on. The last 2 classes, 22, 23, 24, are literally closer to top 5s than they are 15 to 20, if that makes any sense. Because Brian Kelly had a lot of 15 to 20 type classes at times. They are literally 1 player away from 3 straight years of being in the top 5. They are. When you look at the numbers, I like to look at the ratings and compare who's there. They are so close to breaking into that upper echelon, but they're still solid. Real quick, Mike, Goolsby talked about NFL guys. Well, I like to look at the ratings. 93. If you have a 93 plus, you're basically a top 100. That's really how the thing breaks down. Miami's who's number 5. To give you a quick example, Miami, who's number 5, Notre Dame. Miami has 7 93 guys in the 93 ratings. Notre Dame has 6. That tells you how close they are. Check this out. Miami has 10. The NFL drafts 260 players. Miami has 10. Notre Dame 9. So there they are, 10 to 5. So look how close they are. But check this out. Miami has 10 players ranked 500 or lower. 10. They have 3 in the thousands. So Notre Dame only has 7. Miami has 3 linemen ranked in the thousands. So that just, basically what I'm trying to say is Miami's got 1 guy ranked a pinch higher in a rating system over Notre Dame is what's keeping Notre Dame from 10 to 5. They are that close, and it's really impressive. And I did this on 23, 22 classes. And then the Brian Kelly 17 to 21 were nowhere near moving up in the rating. So kudos to Marcus Freeman, his recruiting class. They are doing a hell of a job. And I think they need a high five for what they've done the last 3 years.
Yeah. And it's the way it's broke down too. Save for the offensive lineman, forget about the offensive lineman. I think both of your running backs, Tim, could play tomorrow. I mean, physically, they could play tomorrow. I think Gilbert and Cam Williams, clearly we're not afraid to play freshman wide receivers, and these two are better than any of the receivers that we lost in the portal. I'm going to miss Braylon James. I'm excited to see what he can do. But so it's like on the offensive side of the ball, your skill positions, running back, wide receiver, I think they can play right away. And then you've got a handful of those guys. I mean, KVA is one of those kids. I think that battle for the Mike linebacker is going to be fascinating. I love that they're starting to work Drake Bowen in at will, which might help open the door for KVA as like an actual Mike. But then like a Teddy Rizak, who I'm familiar with, I trained Teddy, and Kennedy Urlacher, Benny Powell. These are guys that it'll take time for them to find their role. So the way that this defensive talent, Tim, has kind of been stacked up, it works out in terms of like the timeline of it. And then the only other thing about rankings is those three kids in particular, like Teddy's playing free safety at 6. Dude, he's taller than me, and I'm 6'4". So he's like a 6'4-ish, 6'5" free safety that's clearly going to move closer to the ball as a linebacker. Benny Powell, he's listed as a safety, but he's playing Sam. And then, Kennedy Urlacher isn't very comfortable going backwards. So he's like going to be like an overhang type, rover type something. And Tim, he'll knock your socks off. He will absolutely smoke you. But they're hard to categorize if you're ranking them, because they don't necessarily fit a mold of, he's an outside linebacker, he's an inside linebacker. So that hurts the overall ranking too. But like a kid like Teddy, I mean, he's a 6'5", 200-ish pounds kid that'll get to 225, that runs 4.4, 4.5. Like a beautiful, like long athlete, can cover ground, but it's hard to put him in a box categorically to rank him. So that's why I tend to get away from rankings. And the other thing, it's so funny on your Twitter timeline. Like I'll watch and who's this 4-star player going to, like Miami? And I watch the film, that kid's trash. I just watched some 4-star defensive end that's going to Miami. I'm like, I don't want that kid. Then he's a 4-star.
No, I hear you. And that's why I like Notre Dame, the 500, the guys in the 500s. You look at the guys, Mike had the pictures up there, but you watch Powell. That dude will fly around and knock the living heck out of you, and he's tall as could be. Rizak, tall, fearless on the football field. Hobbs, who we haven't even talked about, the corner out of Ohio. You watch his film, unbelievable senior season out of Moeller High, Catholic powerhouse in Ohio. So they're lower dudes, going right back to the ranking, because you're like, well, Rizak's playing this, but he's really that. Exactly. But they are long, and all those dudes get hit. There's some guys that Notre Dame signed in the past, some low 3-stars, and you watch him, you're like, yeah, that guy's going to play punt return. You just know it. But with some of these dudes, man, by their junior year, when they fill out, you got a bunch of 6'4", 220-pounders running and flying around all over the place, and that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, running. That's so it's really it's a good class, and it's a fun class, and I noticed too, like I go to like a Sevillano. He might be a little on the short side, Tim. I'll grant you that. But that kid like plays hard. He's fun to watch, got a motor. So it seems like a fun group too.
Yeah, might I add on the recruiting ranking side of things in terms of the team? So Notre Dame did enter the day number 11, and they finished number 9, which
look who they're ahead of. Look at that.
Yeah, LSU. You got to scroll down a little bit to find Michigan down there at 17, boys. But yeah, it's hard to move up when you're not landing any players, which really speaks to you can't understate how important it is to just keep your guys committed. After this show, I'm going to finish writing an article, my 10 thoughts to kind of reflect on signing day. And one of the big thoughts is think back to last year, Peyton Bowen, Jaden Lamar, Devin Moore, all these flipping away from Notre Dame, near National Signing Day. Even the year before that, Devin Moore, maybe I'm getting my classes mixed up. Yeah, Devin Moore, in 2022, CJ Williams, Amarion Walker. Notre Dame didn't have any of those, and it's not because other programs weren't trying to flip guys away from Notre Dame. The staff just did a really good job, identifying guys that maybe aren't, kind of have those drama-filled recruitments. They worked really hard. Like I know Ohio State was working to flip Kingston late. Missouri really wants to build a wall around the Show Me State, and they kept the Irish kept Williams locked in. The other thing that I feel really passionate about is looking at these class rankings. So Tim and Goolsby, humor me on this, okay? The 2022 class, Marcus Freeman was on the staff for the entire year as the defensive coordinator. Kelly leaves. No one decommits because of Kelly, right? Freeman slides into the Notre Dame head coach role a few weeks before signing day and signs the number 6 class in the country. If you guys can bear with me and say, just agree with me, even just for this scenario, that we're going to give Freeman credit for the 2022 class, okay? Number 6 in the country, according to the On3 industry, whatever ranking. Okay. Last year, number 10 class in the 2023 cycle. Not too shabby. Back-to-back top 10 classes. I think Brian Kelly did that once in his tenure at Notre Dame. If Notre Dame's current number 9 ranking holds, that is back-to-back-to-back top 10 classes, has not been done at Notre Dame since 06 to 08. Think about how long of a period of time it's been since Notre Dame has not signed 3 straight top 10 classes, and Freeman is going to do it in his first 3 classes. That is damn impressive. Like, that is shopping down a different aisle, or whatever term you want to use. It's a data point. I get it. I'm not saying recruiting rankings is the be-all, end-all, but that's got to be a pretty damn good little metric there. Tim, any thoughts on that?
Oh, no. I mean, without a doubt. That's why I'm sitting here looking at my notes. Again, it's going back to my point of, Notre Dame is literally probably not even one player. It's like if someone was just ranked this or that instead of a 92.5, if it was a 92.7, Notre Dame's in the top 5. They are that close, which is crazy with some of these metrics, and I like the industry that On3 has, because it's just all of them in a big pile, and let's go from there. So, but they are close. I'm telling you, the last 3 classes are night and day different compared to Kelly's 17 to 21. So now it's got to be proven on the football field. Got to get into the playoffs in 2024. Get yourself an OC. We know, what freshmen are going to play? What, I think 8 or 9 played this year, 10 played last year. So there's going to be 6 to 8, 9 guys in this class that are going to be on that field somewhere. So it's exciting getting ready for 2024.
Yeah, I don't have much to add other than that's why Freeman got the job. So it's like, the recruiting wins is going to offset the 10 men on the field. The recruiting wins is going to offset some of the operational stuff. He's still learning the operational stuff, but he has that recruiting stuff. It's just who he is. It's his nature. So it's like that is a core pillar of what makes Freeman a great head coach, or gives him the potential to be a great head coach, is the work ethic, the character, the charm, all that, the transparency, and then the football stuff's got to catch up.
All right, boys, I see a quick opening to get an ad read in before we dive into a couple of good comments and questions from the YouTube chat that I queued up. We are going to hear from our next sponsor, and that is, of course, folks, it's Augie's Locker Room, especially if you're local, folks, in South Bend, and you're looking for that last-minute gift idea. I actually had someone email in and was like, hey, I need a gift idea for my spouse. You got anything for me? And I sent them over to Augie's Locker Room. So if you're local, please head over there. if you need any last-minute gift ideas with Christmas coming up. So we do know that you love that Notre Dame memorabilia and one-of-a-kind Fighting Irish items, and you can only find it at one place, and it's, of course, Augie's Locker Room, which has moved to a brand new location at 1733 North Ironwood Drive in South Bend. It's just right down the street from Notre Dame. So whenever you're in town, or again, if you're local, head over to Augie's. They have a wide selection of Notre Dame Stadium pieces, jerseys, helmets, autographs, and one-of-a-kind Rockney items. You can even find exclusive Joe Montana signed items and famous sculptor Jerry McKenna's replicas of the bronze statues around the stadium. And Augie gets stuff in all the time. As Goolsby has told us before, if Augie doesn't have something necessarily, he is the guy. You call Augie at 574-277-6363, and he's going to go find it for you in a snap, just like he found Goolsby's old jersey from back in the day. So please visit Augie, new location, 1733 North Ironwood Drive in South Bend, and see the vintage helmet display dating back to 1890. Augie's Locker Room.com.
There's more to that story, Mike.
More?
Oh
my God. Please tell me.
So the guy that I'm going to get the jersey from, we're going to do a little trade, but with this, he's got a place off campus, right off campus, 700 feet to be exact. So we're going to do some Patreon meetups, and we're going to get to use that guy's man cave / garage filled with Notre Dame memorabilia. So it's like, we're winning, it's like got the jersey back and then you're making some connections. So yeah, man.
Love it. All right. Let's see here. Last kind of thing on the recruiting rankings. Tim, I know you're a big fan of the blue chip ratio. So the 2024 Notre Dame class is not that good, Joey says. Only a 56% blue chip ratio. Notre Dame had a 78% blue chip ratio last year. Do you have any thoughts on this, Tim? Is it a failed metric here? Because it's just one data point.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, Freeman had back-to-back classes in the 70s, which had not been done during this whole blue chip era, so to speak, when the guys are keeping tabs on this. So he was going for the three-peat, which was awesome. Fell short, and it just goes back to Mike Goolsby's favorite thing about rankings. It's still some guy sitting on a desktop, saying, I'm going to give this guy a 2.2.
That never played football, Tim. That never played football. You just know it.
Oh, come on. We have Singer. He's a journalism major, but he did play. He did catch the curl flat.
Why am I getting stray bullets over here?
No, just messing. But still, I mean, a couple guys like Peter Jones was top 100, dropped off face of the earth. Larson, who's a stud at tight end, unbelievable H-back motion guy, amazing hands. I mean, if Larson's 6'5", he's a top 50 football player. The dude's a freak on film, yet he drops. So you got Moore, the Texas guy. I don't know if he ever officially moved up. Unbelievable film. Like I said, Hobbs committed so early, I think the ranking guys forgot about him. That's a legitimate 4-star corner out of Cincinnati Moeller. Watch his film, and you're like, that dude could play in the Big Ten with the powers anywhere. But
so
it's a couple. It really is just a couple dudes that are right below that threshold, and that's what kills it.
So Tim's calling this an anomaly. So K-Max says, what is a blue chip ratio? And that's basically the percent of 4- and 5-star guys in your class. So Notre Dame has 56% 4 and 5 stars in their class.
I have a couple thoughts. Mm-hmm. Every time I think about rankings, I think about Courtney Watson, Tim, who was like a 3-star running back and then ended up being a Butkus finalist as an inside linebacker on one of the best defenses Notre Dame's ever had, 2nd-round pick. And then and then your brain kind of jumps to like a Joe Alt. You know what I'm saying? It's like another 3-star kid.
Well, Mike, me and you have talked about CPA, Carlos Pierre-Antoine, who was everyone's 5-star, the greatest linebacker Notre Dame signed since the 70s, and played special teams. That's what you're so right. I mean,
I remember showing up to play at Notre Dame football, and CPA scared the bejesus out of me. Just to look at him, it's like, oh yeah, he's definitely a 5-star. But so that's a piece to it. It'd be an interesting experiment rather, because. And this is coming from I was like a borderline 5-star-ish when I went through my recruitment. And it's just like.
Calling you a 5-star, Mike. You were a 5-star. Continue.
If I wanted to get 100 offers, I could have got 100 offers. You know, you just keep sending your film out, keep playing the game. You could have got more and more offers, and you could have been a top 10 player or whatever. You could have played the game. You know, if these Notre Dame, hypothetically, just so everybody knows, and I'm not trying to blow the lid off of this BS, but if hypothetically, if all of these, how many kids were in the class, guys?
24.
Perfect. 24K.
23. Yeah, 23.
23. If all 23 of them kids would have just been a silent commit, Coach Freeman, I swear to God, I'm going to commit to Notre Dame. I'm going to sign with Notre Dame. I just want my recruiting. Like, if all 23 of those kids would have just played the game, all of their rankings would be higher. When people commit to schools, people stop reading about them. And that's when the rankings drop. I mean, there's absolutely politicking, or whatever is the word, that goes on with these rankings. There is. There's no doubt about it.
Let's turn the topic to then the opposite side, or guys that do rise up. And Mike, if you want to, Singer, talk about Mr. Young. I mean, he went from low to top 100 on some of it. It's like he's a freak. So I guess it happens with a few, but yeah.
I mean, Goolsby is kind of highlighting some of the ugly, which Goolsby, I've been in this business for 10 years. I've seen some of that.
Sure. Just my thoughts. But Tim, you watch Bryce Young and you're telling me he's not neck and neck, he's not on par with Keon Keeley, get the F out of here.
Hold on. Bryce Young's a great example because he committed when? In April. And what did he keep doing? Rise. He's a borderline 5-star, Mike. He was like a 3-star.
He kept getting better. He kept getting better.
Right, but I'm just saying that, like, I agree with you that it only helps you if you are more in the headlines because people are just paying attention to you more. I think that's kind of just like a human nature thing, like to your point. But like someone was kind of teasing me on the message board tonight about I was comparing the On3 industry ranking. I'm sure you just love all of these little terms, Mike. The On3 industry ranking, the team ranking has Notre Dame at 9. But if you remove the words industry and team from this headline or this URL here, actually, that did not work. Okay, I'm sorry. It's not working right now. But Notre Dame, if you just use On3's rankings, it's 7. I don't know why it's not working. They're actually 7, just according to On3. So people are like, oh, Singer's just defending the motherland here. Just defending On3. But I mean, and I told the guy on the board, I was like, there's a lot of things On3 does that I'm not over here defending. It's just the rankings I feel strongly about because I think that, you know, Charles and Cody at On3, the 2 main scouting guys, do a really good job, even though people might not love the CJ Carr ranking. There's a lot of other rankings where Keedron Young kept moving up. Anthony Knapp, they absolutely love it On3. And others they may not love as much, but I respect you know, the On3 rankings guys and what they do, because I think they do a good and fair job, Mike.
But some of those guys, real quick on Goolsby point, is with Young is his film. I mean, his film is what brought him up. It's like unfreaking believable as he just kept getting better and better. So there are guys out there with film. I think, you know, just real quick on Bowen last year, he committed. He was solid, obviously top 50-ish and whatnot, but he kept playing the game. The Goolsby point, no one was better than Peyton Bowen. He kept his name hot, ends up being number 15 in the country. So, I mean, yeah, he had a heck of a freshman year, so it was worthy, but that's going to Goolsby point, man. You keep your name in that, on that Twitter sphere, right? And the social media.
It helps.
It helps. There's no doubt about it.
It's not everything.
I have a couple. It goes back to what I used to talk about with the quarterback competition with, you know, transfer quarterbacks is, what are the rules? Like, what are the criteria? How are we assessing who wins a competition, right? So until there's like a standardized, and Mike, you might enlighten me here, but until there's like a standardized checklist that they're going down in terms of how they evaluate a star ranking, et cetera, I would like to know, because we, again, like this, having done that for that Patreon thing, this is my category, just spitballing. I said dimensions, stuff I take into consideration, dimensions / size, technique, you know, how well they've been taught, burst, which is one thing, fluidity in motion, change of direction, physicality, long speed, the level of competition, and is it transferable to college? That's kind of what I'm thinking about. And it's like when I start, it's like, if I'm Coach Freeman, would I offer this kid?
Mm-hmm.
And then I work off of that.
Yeah.
But it's like, what are the metrics?
I think it's impossible to like have one standard metric across the board, because to your kind of example about the Miami kid, you watch his tape and you're like, I don't like that kid, I would not offer him at Notre Dame. Well, Miami might be like, you're crazy, we want him here. So it's just very, very subjective. To each their own, man. Jamarcus Russell.
It does beg the question, what are you basing a ranking off of? I'm
saying it varies, very much varies across the sites. Different people doing different rankings. It's very subjective.
Maybe that's a fun exercise though for Notre Dame fans, like this guy that said, "Oh, this wasn't a good class." Okay, but I'm just saying, challenge yourself to watch the film and challenge yourself to look at it from a glass half full. Watch the film.
Yeah. And then go watch, as we did last year, Mike. I remember texting with you 1,000 times when we started watching the top couple classes, and we're like, whoa, those are some different dudes. There's a reason why those are the top 3 classes. They're some different guys.
I'm staying away from that, Tim. I'm staying away from that. But yeah, I feel you.
I'm not watching them this year. All I remember, I've watched in the past. I'm like, yeah, I need to turn that off.
All right, we had kind of moving the conversation along. Peter Pye asked, Goolsby, who are you most excited for in this class?
Yeah, let's get into this. Can we get into some specifics with the 3 of us?
Let's do it.
In no particular order, I love whatever, dude. I like Kedron Young's film more than I like Jadarian Price's film. So if I'm talking about sheer talent, I'm putting Love number 1, and I might put Young second. So I'm putting Young as somebody I'm super excited about. Obviously, KVA, I mean, he's got it all. He's just such a good football player. I mean, his feel for the inside linebacker position, Tim, is can you do it any better? Can you do it any better? Bryce Young the other night, that's like defensive end porn. I mean, Bryce Young blew my mind watching that film. So, shame on me, I hadn't seen it. That's a figure of speech singer. I love Sevillano, a kid that I'm going to follow closely. Just give me that 300-plus pounder, and he's real slippery for being 300 pounds. And then offensive line, Tim, I know you love Lambert, but I like Peter Jones, and I really liked Knapp. I really like Knapp. And obviously the receivers. I mean, Micah Gilbert reminds me of Justin Blackman, if you can remember him, went to Oklahoma State. Mm-hmm. The way he moves around, and Cam Williams is the closest thing that we've seen to having, like, he's better than Michael Floyd. I mean, Michael Floyd was kind of, and I look at biomechanics, again, I train kids every weekend. I went to 3 signing days today, kids that went Division I. And it's like, Cam Williams moves better to me than Michael Floyd did. So those are like my top 5 or 6. But those are the kids I'm like, damn, I love those kids.
All right, before Tim hops in, I just want to pop on some film here. Can we do that? Kingston Filiamu-Wasa. Rivals has him ranked as a 5-star. On3 is the lowest, but they keep bumping him up, hoping that he gets into the top 100 after a strong week at the All-American Bowl. Kind of hoping to see that. He's been a riser in the On3 rankings. But yeah, let's talk about his film. Goolsby, thoughts on this guy, and then we'll go to
Tim. You
Hyde.
Go first. You go first. I'm talking too much. It's your show.
No.
But you're the linebacker.
He is. I mean, I've been saying this since he got his offer. I remember the day he got his offer. If he comes to Notre Dame, he's the most, ready to play linebacker since Jalen Smith. I'm saying this for 18 months. He's a freak. He's a stud. You don't start as a freshman at St. John Bosco, play that level of football, and not be a dude. And he's been that way since day one. He is. It's crazy. I mean, there's plays in here people will watch, and you'll be like, oh, well, he doesn't do that, doesn't do this, or doesn't blow people up like Dick Butkus or whatever. Everyone he's going against signed today. I mean, let's just get that. Everyone on this film either signed today or signing next year. The level of competition that he plays is Division I football. It is a freak show. And it's unbelievable. And that's what's just so exciting. His instincts, when you watch him read, I mean, on counters and things of that nature, are unbelievable. And then, as a coach, I'll fast forward it. Oh, he wrong armed on this play. Well, boom, he wrong armed because this guy's keeping outside arm and leg free. He knows the fit. He's perfect here. Everyone's in their gap, which to me, the dude takes coaching. And I just love that term, take coaching, meaning I'm going to tell you what to do. You're going to do it. You're going to kick ass as you do it. And that's what I see, Asa. I'm ecstatic. I can't wait for him to get here. And I know I've heard you say it on your Sunday night shows, Mike. Yeah, he's going to be in the running. Heck, Freeman said it today. He's going to be on the field. So that tells you the expectations that they have for him.
Yeah, and just a couple things, Singer, what you want to get into, like linebacker specific. Tim, I love his pat, like the way he reads that play out. He's just so confident. There's no anxiety, or he just pat, and then he'll slip it. And then to your point, Tim, where he's like, oh, he's not blowing this kid up and driving, knockout killer hits. Yes, the level of competition is exceptional. It's the best high school football in the country. But the stuff that he does is realistic in terms of translating to college, where you might see some stud linebacker like a Bodie Calhoun just knock over a guard at the second level, just pancake some guard. It's like, that shit isn't realistic. That's going to be a 310-pound kid in college, whereas you see KVA like that reduced technique where he slips a block and then squeezes back. I mean, like, I work diligently to try and teach kids that how to do that, because it's like you don't want to take that guy on all the time. If it's a draw, we're going to use two hands, but like, there's so many things that he does effortlessly that translate. And then the other thing, we saw this with Junior Tuialamaka, and some of these Polynesian kids, they can put on weight very easily. Like a Manti Te'o. I saw Manti Te'o. I was on the field for one of his games, and Tim, he is so thickly built. It's just that, that DNA, they can put weight on. And like Junior, who we still think could be a good Mike, Tim. I know you think that. But he kind of outgrew that position, whereas KVA seems to have a little bit more of a tight waist. And I don't see, when looking at his body type, I don't see him getting himself into a pickle where he gets up to 255 pounds accidentally, if that makes sense, guys.
No, I see him, if anything, probably thinning out a little bit and just being a
ripped up.
Yeah, ripped up, ready to roll guy who weighs 225 to 232-ish, and that range, and just manning C gap to C gap. That's what I see with him. There's no need to move him to Viper, which he does do a ton of in their nickel package. He's the stand-up at edge guy. He does a lot of. I would not be surprised if he is in a dime package or whatnot next year. His instincts and his drops are, I mean, I hate to use the word.
I'm telling you,
his drops
you can't do it any better. You can't do it any better.
He's already playing at that level, getting under guys, rerouting guys, hitting the hips of guys, and going back to my point, he's playing all these receivers that are running 4.5, and he's getting to the hip of these guys. So he's got amazing instincts. I got one of my long time coaching buddies coaches linebackers at Long Beach Poly, the big powerhouse out there in Southern Cal, and he sees KVA all the time and just says, man, Notre Dame's getting a guy. They're getting a guy, and he's going to play. He's going to play immediately. But and immediately doesn't mean a starter in game one at A&M. He's going to be on the field, and we're going to see his number in games.
Love that.
No, he's going to have to pick up the system. You know, Tim, better than anybody how complex Golden system can be. But the variability with a Jack Kaiser, who's the old sage, right? Just all that wisdom and knowledge that Kaiser can provide. Kaiser can play Mike and Will. And it's like, okay, we're going to kick Kaiser to Mike. We're going to slide Snead into Will in this particular down and distance or whatever. We're going to slide Kaiser back to Will. And maybe we're going to put Bowen or KVA in at Mike. It's going to be fun to watch. But he is, in terms of just a football player, And when you say, oh, he's a great football player, people think he's not a great athlete, right? He's slippery. He has got good long speed, good enough size. But yeah, I mean, you really can't do it much better.
Tim says, hold on. Tim says maybe he doesn't start against A&M. Or he might, dude. He's really damn good. Notre Dame is very, very excited about him. I'm more of the reporter than I don't know if you guys can hear that, but that huddle tape just started playing in my ears, and that was very loud. So I had to cut that off. But yeah, so I'm more of the reporter insider than film analyst. That's why we have Tim Hyde and Mike Goolsby on the show.
So real quick though, but the question was, who are my favorite people that I'm excited about? Singer, you've got an interesting perspective as you talk to these families, etc. Might be a kiss. Hey, Tim, if Singer loves you as a recruiter, it might be a kiss of death, in years past.
Yeah, that Joe Alt guy. It sucks for him, huh?
Said it might be. Tim, who are your top 2 or 3, 4?
Well, I mean, also just real quick on Kingston is he comes to Notre Dame, has some success. I'm telling you, it is massive because he's a known dude. It's huge out there in SoCal, the Trinity League. All those players, man, he could be a massive pipeline for Notre Dame out there, and that's awesome. I mean, I love giant guys. I think big dudes win football games, and that's Gerby Lambert. Not that type singer, but anyway, Gerby Lambert's a monster. His film is legit. So when you get Jagasaw, it's funny because you think Jagasaw a little bit. You like him better than Lambert, which is like, I mean, come on, you like green apple, red apple, they're all apples. But it's Lambert's explosive. He gets super, super low in his stance on some of his film.
Fascinating. We have
oh my God.
Go. I'm not going to argue with you.
And I've heard you mention like his believe it or not, his level of competition. It's not Cincinnati Catholic. It's not SoCal Catholic, things of that nature. But the Boston Catholics that he plays, there's a lot of Division I football players that he's going against. Heck, St. John's Prep, their safety last year played at Georgia this year. So everyone's going up into the Boston leagues, which Notre Dame has done the last couple of years and starting to get some guys. So really like him. I mean, we can sit here and talk about all the high-end guys. I always like trying to find some of the lower guys. I mentioned his name before, Carson Hobbs. I just like his film. I don't know. He's a corner, a safety. I don't know. I just love. He's tall, and he's got to get on the field.
The thing that watching Hobbs.
Yes,
like, I feel like if you need him to run 4.2 on the field, he's going to run 4.2. Hobbs can run, dude.
It's great. Going back to the rankings, which just drive you nuts. Is like, what are you missing? He is so damn good, and he plays going back to one of your criteria, competition. The Cincinnati Catholic League is not weak links. Those are legitimate dudes that he's going against, and he's out there competing like heck. California guy, another lower ranked guy, Logan Saldate's got. I mean, his senior film as a junior, like he's making good, plays. Not the greatest here in their competition. His senior, you look like a man. So I just loved watching his film.
Best hands in the class.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable hands. But Lambert, Asa, love Hobbs, love Saldate. Who else out there? Really, really like the fact that, which I've never really understood this singer. If you could get into this, Logan Thomas, who was really good, the greater Houston area, awesome high school football, but he goes to the Ohio Catholics and just tore it up this year. So he's skinny. I mean, he looks like he weighs 168 pounds on film, but my God, his burst is nuts. So, I know there was other Vipers and whatnot, and Notre Dame really went after him. I always scratch my head with him, like, is he physical enough? Is he one of those tweeners? What's he going to be? Senior film, I was like, yeah, he's good. I know he weighs more than 168 pounds, but if you've seen some of his film, online and Twitter and YouTube, I've seen a few of his highlight games. The dude can fly, man. He is physical as hell. So really, really interested to see how he develops. Is he going to be a 245-pound stand-up rush guy or does he grow into a Foskey type guy? I really like him.
If you guys don't mind, there's one player I do want to talk about specifically who Goolsby talked about was Kedron Young, another personal favorite of mine in this recruiting class. He had a really good year. And from what I was told by Charles Powered on 3, who, I mean, the guy watches so much tape, it's ridiculous. I mean, he was telling me how the offensive line at Lufkin has it's young and inexperienced. I mean, I don't know how we got that information, but yeah, so he's playing against really good competition and not a great offensive line, it seems. Not getting any D1 guys here. But the guy, Kedron Young, just put up some crazy numbers as a senior and looks great on film. So you lose Audric Estime, Mr. Goolsby, and then in comes Kedron Young, one of your favorite guys in the class.
Yeah, Tim, I love a 5'10", 5'11", 215-pound running back. I just love that classic. I heard Dion, Coach Prime, talking about that. Yeah, he likes that same build. The burst with this kid, the contact balance. And I like Aeneas Williams, but Kedron Young in particular on these long runs, again, studying kind of biomechanics. I'm no Lauren Landau, but I have an idea what to look for. Like Kedron Young looks much faster to me, long speed wise, than Aeneas. Aeneas plays heavier to me, even though Kedron is the heavier athlete. But the contact balance, the level of competition, the burst, this kid's a stud. Plays without gloves in some games, which I love. He has that thing, Tim, where you saw that, like Saquon Barkley probably does it the best, where they'll get into a cut and they can almost like unlock their hip and to step out of a tackle. Like he's just got some stuff that you can't train. There's a couple plays on his highlight tape where safety comes down with a beeline and he just absorbs that hit, bounces off of it. Between Jeremiah Love and this kid, it's like, what more could you ask for?
I'm sitting here laughing. I mean, you're just watching this film and it's like, who the hell's tackling this guy?
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I'm all about just boom, make a move in a phone booth, is the old saying, right? And man, you're gonna lose your jockstrap, right? There's another old Goolsby saying back from the Mickey Mariotti days, like, man, he's gonna. I mean, you're gonna lose it. He's unbelievable. His cutting ability, like,
Tim,
crazy. It's awesome to watch.
So everybody says one cut and go. It's
There's
like,
six right there. There's 6 cuts in one play.
But I'm saying it's 1 foot on that cut. He can cut now, whereas like you saw Tyree for years, the little stutter step to cut. Yeah. And this is a 220-pound back. It's plays with that wide base. He's low to the ground. And then he's upfield. It's 1 step in the ground, gone. So, but yeah, like I said, he can sink and then he can kind of like unlock that hip. Like right there. That gives people that dead leg. And I was like, remind me of? Go ahead.
That's
Tim.
A great point on the dead leg, man, where you just sit and everyone goes to one side and he boom, bounce back so fast, has the balance. You see him that's the other thing. When he cuts, he's square. He's not tilting or anything. He's square and moving through holes, which goes back to great running backs. My favorite running back of all time is Eric Dickerson. ED, all he ever used to talk about was his eyes, man. His eyes are always moving. And when you watch Young, when you cut like that one play, he cut 6 times within 5-6 yards. That is 100% vision. He is looking. His eyes and hips are all moving one and the same, and it's awesome.
And it's conditioning too, Tim, to be able to make those 6 cuts in one play and still score. I mean, that's like conditioning. It's funny that comment said Ricky Williams. When we were talking about that on the Patreon, I'm like, yeah, Ricky Williams here, because he's kind of like muscle bound. But then I was like, he kind of reminds me of Mark Ingram. And these are just fun comps.
Yeah.
He kind of reminds me of a Mark Ingram in terms of like his play style, the velocity at which he plays. Yeah, I mean, he should be good. And then just imagine how big running behind a Jagasaw who's 6'7", 330, and then you've got this little 5'10", 220-pound bowling ball that's playing low to the ground. I mean, for somebody like me, I gotta get there, and I gotta get down to get him.
That's
not an easy tackle.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Anthony Knapp, and he's the smallest guy in the class. I mean, you got Peter Jones is massive as could be. You got, Styles Prescott's tall, Lambert's a monster, Jagasaw. The class of 2025, as Mike knows, I think every single guy that they've offered is 6'7". They're all just trees.
Like 6'9". Yeah. Well, the guys like Sullivan Absher's a massive dude. I mean,
yes.
The guys in that offensive line, they're trees. And I saw Tosh Baker, Tim. I saw Tosh Baker at that spring game and at that point, Tosh was probably the tallest guy in the room, but he looked like a power forward, in terms of there wasn't a lot of bulk. So hopefully the last couple of years he's added some size. But yeah, big boys.
Singer met him at an airport. I remember Mike.
Yeah, I did.
Met him, and Singer was like, "Tim, that's a big offensive tackle." I never forget the way you said it. Like, holy moly, is he a big dude?
Yeah, I was like, "Hey, Tosh, we've never met before, but I used to interview you. Were on my podcast a few years ago. That was fun. I would be remiss if we didn't talk about the 5-star in the class, Cam Williams. Kind of one of those rankings quirks among many is that he's a 4-star across the board, but because he's in the top 32 of the On3 industry ranking, he gets that 5-star status. We're going to give it to him. He's electric. He's a top 50 player across the board according to the national rankings. And yeah, he's pretty darn good as well. 6'2.5", 196 pounds. Let's talk about his film. We'll go to Tim first here. Cam Williams, I believe he's been on our show twice. So he's got that going for him as well. But yeah, Cam Williams here. What do we think, boys?
No, you're right. Yeah. Cam's been with us a couple times. I'm just gonna just cut and paste what Marcus Freeman talked about him today. Fast. It's like we timed him multiple times, on visits, and he always ran a 4.4. So he's in that range, and and it's funny. I mean, remember Mike when we went back right before he started? He was on right before he went to training camp, and he talked about all the things that they were going to do with him this year, and you saw it. More jet sweeps. He played defense, wide receiver, some wildcat. Did a lot of things this year. So legitimate athlete. If he's hey, I'm a huge Michael Floyd fan. So if he's a pinch next to Michael Floyd, Notre Dame's got a hell of a football player. He's Cam Williams awesome. And by the way, his defensive highlights this year was just swarming to the football. He was awesome on defense.
Safety. Yeah, he's a good safety. Ghouls?
Tim, do you have a comp for Cam Williams? Like a fun, I use the term fun comp.
Oh man, no, sometimes God, I'm horrible at those, trying to figure out who's who, things of that nature. But when you go, body wise, the way he looks a little bit like Kevin Austin. I would say I thought Kevin Austin was a good looking, especially his last year at Notre Dame in 2021. I think Cam kind of has that same type of a body, when you look at it. So I'm thinking of someone real quick.
Well, like it's Mike, if you could go all the way back to like the beginning of his highlight film. Hey, and every time I say biomechanics, you need to drink, okay? I think that's the 5th. This kid's running form is perfect. The way he tucks his heel and like the knee drive and all that. When I'm watching him run like that, it's like a shorter version of a Julio Jones, just in terms of the power and like his running form. So he's like fast, but there's an element of like power to the way that he's built and the way that he kind of plays. And I saw him post for some picture or something. Tim, I think he has negative body fat. I think he's like negative 3% body fat. I mean, there's an ounce of fat on this kid. He's exceptional. And I think and Tim and you and I could go write a small book about this. SEC wide receivers. I don't care if they're 6'3". I don't care if they're 5'10", 5'8". They can just open up and go. Like they can just open up and run. And Cam Williams gives you that. Like just open up and just catch it and go. So he's an exceptional player. I think he's going to bring some leadership. I think offensively, as far as this class, he's way more important than CJ Carr is. Way more important.
I would, yeah, man. Yes, I'll say that because I'm a wide receiver. That's all I want to talk about is like get some dudes out there just to go make freaking plays.
There you go.
Wide receivers, wide receivers, wide receivers. It's like just I keep going back to the championship games. I want to Arizona. Geez, Louise, well, they had dudes. They had McMillan from Servite. But I want Washington, Oregon wide receivers. I want those guys who are just going to make plays one-on-one on the perimeter. Okay, hey, you want to play cover 2? We're going to run the ball. I got a freakish quarterback. We'll run the ball. You know, oh, you want to spy on me? I'm going to beat you one-on-one. Notre Dame needs a wide receiver. Just want to scream that could just win one-on-one 25 yards down the field. And Cam Williams, is he an early enrollee, Mike Singer? He's an early guy, right? So, yeah, he's fingers crossed. He doesn't turn in, you know, he's not Braylon James. Oh, he can't learn the playbook. It's like, just teach him 3 freaking plays then. Just 3 plays. 3 plays, get him on the damn field and go play.
From an evaluation thing, like you don't see him get into a lot of 50-50 jump ball. Like I might, gun to my head, I might throw a jump ball to Micah Gilbert over Cam Williams, just in terms of the timing, your jump, the body control, and all that stuff. But if you're just looking for a guy, just go get it, go run underneath it, catch a bubble screen and go with his kind of power. And I'm not sleeping on Micah Gilbert at all. He's like an Anquan Bolden, and he's a little bit more thickly built. I don't know what he runs like. But yeah, Cam Williams was like, hey, go deep. And yeah, he's 200 pounds. Yeah, he's built to play.
Yeah, a freak. I feel like we gotta also talk about CJ Carr. He is the quarterback. And one of you guys just brought him up as well. I think it was Goolsby. So yeah, I don't have senior film of Carr. I just realized he did not post that on his huddle page. It's not really important. So we went to, when I say we, blue and gold, went to a couple of his games this year. So I'm gonna find and pop that up. But yeah, let's talk about CJ Carr and what we think about him, boys. We'll go to Tim first on that.
No, I mean, God, you just start going back to stacking talent. You know, you got Minchie, you got freaking Carr, obviously Deuce Knight. I mean, Singer, you've reported on the stud out of Southern California coming, you know, in the winter time from, the class of 226. So it's just like keep stacking talent. And no, Carr's exciting. It's like, my God, the guy committed 3 years ago. So it's like, it's like, fine. Is it real? Is he legitimately like signing? It's like, doesn't even feel real because it seems like he's been in the class for so long.
Already practiced.
Exactly. He's already been at a handful of practices, but no, it's exciting. The hype is going to be insane with him. It just is. People just, once again, dying for a Notre Dame quarterback. I think that's why, going back to Hartman and all that, it's just dying. People are just starving for a quarterback at Notre Dame to be Brady Quinn, to be Jimmy Clausen, maybe not the attitude of Clausen, but the performance of 2009, that type of quarterback. Starving for it. And I think the fandom is going to be insane with him. So it's going to be interesting to see how this year happens. What is the true competition like? I'm talking for number 2. Riley Leonard's obviously going to come in. I'm sure he's going to be the guy, all that good stuff. What is that going to be like? Because no matter what we talk about between now and the spring and the blue and gold game, man, I've said it 100 times the last couple of weeks already. I think the battle for the number 2 quarterback is going to set the tone for obviously the following season, but it's going to be mad. I think that's the storyline going into the spring football is the battle for number 2. And how legitimate is CJ Carr going to be in that?
It was also your storyline for last year as well. I want to add that it was in Jelly versus Minchie, but
Which
Goolsby, what about you?
eventually, and Jelly, won out during spring and things of that nature, and here he is starting into a darn Sun Bowl. So 2 years in a row, Mike, who is the number 2? But it's also important. Hartman, just like even Jack Cohn played in every game, never got out. Can Riley Leonard, knock on wood, play the 12, 13 games, whatever it's going to be? So yeah, that Notre Dame hasn't needed a number 2 in a while, and is it going to happen? And if it does, who is that number 2?
Ghouls? CJ Carr thoughts?
Leave the kid alone. That's my thought. Leave the kid alone. He's throwing away, Tim's joking about it. He's throwing a warm-up pass in practice and we're filming him this oogle. Leave the kid alone. I've cooled on him a little bit. I've got a buddy that coaches high school football. We talked. He's seen him at a couple camps. He said he was small. So, I've yet to see practice photos with, obviously. So we get Riley Leonard's going to look huge, and Riley Leonard looks way bigger than 220, Tim, to me on film. And then, Steve Angeli's looked like a giant lately with the room that we've had. So I kind of want to see his size.
Goolsby, can I interrupt you?
I think if his last name wasn't Carr, I don't know if he's ranked this high. I mean, he's a really good quarterback. But I'm just sitting there going, give that kid some time, lay off. Let's see what happens.
Here's him next to Kenny Minchie. This is from Monday. So there he is, 17. I think he's he's the scout team quarterback, wearing 17.
Kenny's actually something I noticed about Kenny. Kenny's leaned out quite a bit.
Yeah.
Which means something to me. But I like Kenny's arm. Out of the 3 kids that are there right now, I still like Kenny's arm the most, personally. I mean, CJ Carr athletically with Minchie, I don't know who's going to win in a foot race. But I am kind of going to be hands off, wait and see. The kid's a true freshman. Riley Leonard's your starter. There is no competition. The competition is for who's number 2. Hopefully all 4 of them stay.
Tim,
but
do you have anything to add?
The kid just got here. He should still be in high school. Everybody cool your jets. That's my thoughts.
No, I mean, I'm a big fan of his accuracy. I think he could throw. He's got big arm. I mean, he's not throwing the ball 70 yards down the field. Who is the Florida quarterback picked by the Richardson, right? Yeah, he's not throwing it 92 yards like Melton at Tennessee and all that, but it's accurate. I mean, he is very accurate 20 and in. So, how does that evolve? There's a nice throw right there. So it's exciting because of the hype. And Mike Goolsby's correct. Is it the name, the grandson of Lloyd Carr? Was that part of it? He's a lot better than that, I think. So where does he fit? That's a hell of a throw right there. That's one of my favorite throws junior year. He slings it. And it's going to be a fun competition. I mean, obviously we're all dying to see what Steve does here in the next 8.5 days in the Sun Bowl to see how that rolls for it's already here. How crazy is that? How that rolls for the spring of, and Jelly goes out there and has fun. I mean, there's still dudes, obviously some of the guys are left and all that, but if those 2 tackles could pass block, giving Jelly some time to hit those guys, this whole offense is returning next season. That's going to be in the Sun Bowl. That's going to be fun. But what is the competition with Minchie, Carr? Yeah, what does that look like? It's going to be.
Isn't it crazy?
It's going to be interesting.
It just feels like that whole room is just sitting like the car started. We're just sitting in park. We're just idling. It just feels like the rest of that quarterback room is just idling. You know what I mean?
It's a good, interesting thought.
That just came to my mind. And so it's just like, yeah, I mean.
No pun intended.
What was your joke? What'd you say?
I said no pun intended on the cars idling.
Excellent.
When you say idling, let me ask you this, Goolsby. When you say idling for the competition, idling, waiting their turn, basically.
I think I meant more like waiting their turn.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you're just going to kick the can down the road another year. And it's like, I've warmed more to Angeli. Minchie, it's like, it's been you're still going back to high school film to like, what did he look like? So yeah, there's 4 good quarterbacks. 3 of them aren't going to play. So it's just like we're just kind of twiddling our thumbs.
That's going back to the number 2 where, man, it just does Notre Dame have the does it happen where the transfer quarterback comes in and plays every single starts every game, so to speak. So,
well, Minchie to me, and this is just my thoughts. Just I see weird things. Minchie thinning out. He's either him just growing up and maturing into his body, or Tim, he's starting to take things more seriously. Because if you sit there and go, okay, I'm in this battle, what are all the little things that I can do to give myself an edge? So cleaning up your diet, et cetera, et cetera. So like when I see Minchie leaning out, I'm like, okay, maybe that's him turning it up a notch. That's just how I interpret things.
Now, yeah,
I've always equated somebody's body conditioning to their level of care. I always will.
Well, I mean, if we could just spend a minute on this, it's like going into the Sun Bowl. I was very surprised by Marcus Freeman saying, "Yeah, we're just going in with one." Basically, Steve Angeli, it's his show. I am, I love Minchie's film. If you watch Minchie and CJ Carr has so much hype, obviously because of his name, his story. I get all that, but film-wise, I think Minchie's a better football player. I think he's a better quarterback. I loved his film. He's got
better than who? Here we go, Tim.
And
here we go.
CJ Carr. I mean,
okay.
I like Minchie, but where is I'm stunned. Like he's basically on the back burner. So what?
Yeah, where is Minchie?
What did he do this year? Because that really surprised me when Freeman, and Singer could probably knows more about this, than us. Is where is Minchie on the pecking order? Is it? I mean, when Freeman says, "Oh yeah, we have no plan to use 2, it's Steve's job." I get it. He's the number 2. He's been there a whole year longer. Totally understandable. Minchie had shoulder surgery. He probably didn't get back in the swing of things till the season got going. That type of stuff. I get it, but I'm a little surprised there wasn't hey, let's have a week competition and see who's the dude. So that was surprising to me going into this bowl game.
Last thought, Tim. I agree with you here. I'll bang that. What is the criteria of the competition drum until I'm blue in the face? We're having a competition. What are the criteria? Yes, Carr's film and Minchie's film, it's comparable. Like they're kind of like slippery athletes. They can make some fun, unique throws. And I've really been trying to press that issue like every time I'm on camera. If you're rooting for an Angeli over a transfer, if you're part of that camp, if you're rooting for Angeli over a transfer, you ought to say I'm rooting for Angeli / Minchie.
Yeah.
Over a transfer. Angeli and Minchie to me are like a combo deal. Because you haven't seen much from either of them. And I think, Tim, you and I both believe that Minchie might be more just gifted than Steve is physically. And maybe Steve has more moxie and more poise and more, he's been around the team longer, all of that stuff. But I think as far as arm talent, I think, Minchie has more than Angeli. Angeli's rocking a beard. Can we talk about that, boys?
But no,
really?
I mean, Senior, what are your thoughts?
I want to talk about he's got a beard now.
He's
trying to assert himself a little bit.
He gave a great interview. Yeah, he gave a great interview. I think it was yesterday or Monday when the players interviewed. He was awesome. I loved listening to him. He confident. You could tell, hey, I've been here a couple of years now, been behind, these other quarterbacks and things of that nature. He's gotten 2 straight years of the number 2 reps, since the Marshall game, since he got inserted into the number 2. So, what's your excitement like Singer going into next Friday?
I love when Tim says something like, "Oh, Singer probably knows more than this on me," or I want to hear Singer's thoughts, and he just keeps running his damn mouth. Jeez, Tim, do you ever shut? I'm kidding. Okay, man, I haven't talked in a while. I feel like there's so many good stuff, and my internet keeps crapping out, so I'm kind of nervous about that as well. But I think that the Minchie / Angeli thing is very interesting. The what about Angeli thing is interesting. Going all the way back to Goolsby's point about stop putting so much pressure on this kid. How about that little Notre Dame does some kind of in-house podcast thing? Did you guys see that today? Freeman was on there with Chad Bowden, and there's a few other people. You know who else was on there? CJ Carr. CJ Carr was on this big Notre Dame podcast sitting next to Marcus Freeman. So it's not just a fan thing, Goolsby. They're already kind of putting him as the future. I mean, he was on this big podcast YouTube show that Notre Dame puts out. Maybe that's Mike Singer putting too much of a tinfoil hat on, but I mean, the kid does have a lot of pressure, and he's got a lot, and maybe not even pressure, expectations. Expectations could not be higher for CJ Carr. So it's interesting to come on this show and hear Hyde and Goolsby kind of be like, hey, bro, Minchie's the truth. And then who's coming in behind CJ Carr is the most electric recruit, highest ceiling at quarterback that Notre Dame's had since.
Well, Tim said, because I asked for clarification, Tim said that Minchie was a better quarterback than Carr.
Do you agree?
Which I appreciate.
Seriously, I like Minchie, and
he was a top 10 quarterback.
You go back and watch their films, and it's like they both could do what each other could do.
Yep.
And just something about there's some throws that Minchie did his senior year, just throwing a back foot, sidearm, slinging it, and I was like, dude, wow, I want to see that. I want to see that guy on a Saturday in South Bend. He just looked like that to me. So he's kind of a forgotten guy, yet he's really damn good. And that's why I don't understand. I was a little surprised that Hartman, because Hartman just, opted out. Boom, I'm done. So it's kind of like you got a second spring game, Marcus Freeman, with these guys. I was a little surprised. At least there wasn't a weak competition. It doesn't sound like none of that ever took place. It's Angeli's our guy. Minchie, you hang out. Carr's showing up in 10 days. He's the scout team quarterback. So, just a little interest in, I guess reading between the lines going into the Sun Bowl on Kenny Minchie.
Yeah, because if you were going to lose one to the portal, it's
I don't like where this is going.
Based off of what you and I kind of feel, Tim, that's like you might be okay with losing Angeli just in terms of upside.
I'm hurting over here.
Hey, I'm not saying anything until 5:30 next Friday. So, but I mean, it's a great. I mean, it's the most unbelievable opportunity for Steve Angeli, who's been in the program for 2 years, has just busted his butt. I know I kid when I said he's earned number 2 by default, which I hate to say that, but in a way he has. But at least he's been number 2. He has risen up. When he got into the games this year, he didn't look like a frightened turtle. He did the plays that was there. He got better between the Tennessee State game and the last one that he got in, throwing some reps. He was a lot better. So that was nice to see.
Has hell have frozen over Tim Hyde and saying good things about Steve Angeli?
Well, number one, I'm a Notre Dame fan.
Flying outside. What's going on?
Hey,
what is going on?
I want Notre Dame quarterbacks. First off, I want to win the damn Sun Bowl. I don't want to be 0-3. I want Mike Goolsby to be excited that he was a part of beating Oregon State, for crying out loud. So
I appreciate that. That.
Exactly. No, I want Steve Angeli to be. I want him to go out there and kick ass and have fun next Friday. I'm more surprised that Minchie's just not involved, so to speak, unless Angeli goes out there, wets the bed, and just turnover machine, and they got to go with Minchie, or the tackles don't block anybody, and he's running for his life, and he's looking like the 5'2", 40 guy that he looks like he is.
And there we go. We're back.
Can I say to your hey, great little jab. Well, that's a jab. Great little jab there at the end, Tim. Because I think it was it somebody on Blue and Gold wrote an article, and it might have been Horka, about Angeli, and like there was a sentence in there early on, one of the first 2 paragraphs, like, we can't judge Steve based off of this game because no offensive coordinator, new tackles, new running back, wide receiver room's kind of a mess. That's just what was written, Tim.
Let me jump in there before you finish. Is like, then throw that article away. I'm sorry, Tyler Horka. You can judge him because all these guys are returning. These are the guys he's been throwing to on the second unit. These are the offensive tackles he's had on the second unit, correct? So I think you can judge him. I mean, he's been the second team, so he's been throwing to Raritan, Flanagan. He's been throwing to Faison, whatever wide receivers are available in this game. I can't even think off the top of my head. So I think you can judge him, Because if Riley Leonard's not here and he's the starting quarterback, Steve Angeli's the starting quarterback on day one of spring football, this is his offense. These are all the guys he's going to be with. So I think you can judge him.
I'm trying to find that article, but yeah, that's not me.
Also, not really. Leonard's going to have 2 more receivers. He's going to have maybe a new offensive tackle. I mean, guys develop in an off season. A full off season of game plan, getting reps together. I don't know.
For
Tim,
one, no, come on. But for one game, it's not like Steve Angeli just showed up off the turnip truck. I mean, he's been on the team for 2 years. These are all the guys he's practicing with.
I looked up the article. Tyler asked the question in the article, what makes a successful Sun Bowl? Steve says, just winning, Angeli said. Just win. That's it. Tyler goes, he shouldn't be judged whether Notre Dame does or doesn't. His offensive coordinator left, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So he's saying he shouldn't be judged. I get where Tyler's coming from 100%, and I part of me feels the same way. However, he is going to be judged. What am I looking for? To your point, Tim, that 5'2", 40, if Angeli doesn't make a play, hey, listen, if you got 2 new tackles, a true freshman at left tackle, pass protection's leaky, and you can't make plays on your feet when something breaks down, on to the next one. On to the next one.
So that's your criteria, Mr. Goolsby.
100%. Make some magic happen. It's playoff script, 100%. I don't care about, it's going to be a little clunky for sure, but can you show me some magic, Steve? Because if you can't, give me Kenny Minchie, give me CJ Carr, because that's the way this thing is trending with the athletes, with Deuce Knight waiting in the wings. It's just, that's what I need to see.
That's been the Mike Goolsby formula on your Sunday night shows for the last couple of years, is like, it is so true. The magic. I mean, look at the quarterbacks that are in the Final Four. Bunch of dudes that could run around and throw off their back foot 50 yards. Those 4 quarterbacks could all do it. So you're right. It's what hurt Notre Dame in 2021 with Jack Cohn? There's no zone read. So every time they hand it off, people just knife like crazy. There's no threat. Sam Hartman never wanted to run the damn ball this year, and that hurt the team at times. Heck, the two of the biggest moments in the Buckeye game, fourth and he falls short because he doesn't finish the freaking run. So you're so right. You've got to have a quarterback that could scramble, make plays. Ian Book did it. Ian Book, for as spazzy as people thought he was, man, when things broke down, he was going to go make plays and keep games going. So you're right. If he's back there and he's looking like Jack Cohn and can't move out of the pocket, go with Minchie and try something different in that.
It does. And I'm with you, Tim. Like, you're rooting for the kid. You want to win the game. But boy, oh boy, this does feel like a setup. It feels like a setup.
But maybe I'm the opposite. Maybe I'm more excited for Angeli, because I think it's there for him to go out there and kick butt.
Well, that's the coaching you, Tim. That's the coaching you.
Yeah, he's got the interior. He's going to have whoever the tackles are green as could be. I mean, even next year in 2024 with Riley Leonard, if people think Notre Dame O-line is going to be the same, you're nuts. They're losing 2 NFL offensive tackles. There's going to be a dip on the pass blocking next year. It just is, which means Leonard's got to go make some plays. But the wide receivers, well, I mean, he's going to have Thomas's back. So you go Thomas, Faison, and Greathouse. Those are 3 damn good football players. And the tight end with Reardon and Flanagan, you can still play offense in this game. So that's and the running backs, for crying out loud. It's like, does it matter if Estime's here? No. We're all more excited to see Love get 20 carries than we would be Estime in this game, wouldn't we? I want to see what Love does on 20 carries. He's going to break something for 70.
I'm going to jump off here real quick. I've had 3 beers while we're doing this show, by the way. So,
body break.
Who are we going to be talking about on the offensive side of the ball after this game? And I'm going to jump off. I'll jump back in a second. Is that fair?
Sure.
Yeah. So who are we going to be talking about? I think number 1, the offensive tackles. The offensive tackles, because those guys are going to be possible starters for next year. Number 2, Steve Angeli, because Steve Angeli is number 2 if we have success with him, because that means the tackles are having success. That's just my formula in this game. And then one of those backs, Mike, whoever it is it Love? Is it Price? Almost said Young, thinking of the recruits.
Yeah.
One of those 2 backs are electric. They got different speeds to them. They got some athleticism. One of those backs is going to have to perform and be like, that's our bell cow. That's our Kyron Williams. That's our next Estime. That's our next Josh Adams, Dexter Williams from 2018. So that's what I'm looking forward to. Those 3 positions.
All right. Goolsby's back. And we're going to closing thoughts from both of you before we get out of here, because I've been working since 6 a.m., which I know, oh, Singer, get over it. But it's been a day. So I'm exhausted. So Goolsby, closing thoughts.
I'm most excited to see Jagasaw in this, because now the focus shifts away from signing day into the bowl game. I'm excited to see Love, Jagasaw, Raritan. The Angeli thing doesn't really matter to me. And then I'm excited to see the rotation at linebacker. And that's what I'm going to be focused on. I'm watching the future of the program in this bowl game. That's what my final thoughts are.
But linebacker, you got a 5th-year guy and a guy going into a 6-year. How much rotate? I'm dying to see how much rotation they do, because you got the 2 old guys in there. So are they going to rotate a bunch? That's going to be interesting to see how they do that.
Depends on how the game's going.
Oh no, exactly. Hey, right now I'm 17-16, flip a coin. I have no idea what they're expecting this game, and so I have none. But a quick closing thought is just going back to my original thing on the class. Freeman has definitely made big progress. However you want to look at it, he has. And I think we're going to see that in the summer of 24 when he's got 3 full classes together running around. Of course, a couple of those guys have transferred. That's fine. That's why you have the portal. Go fill those in. You just keep stacking high school recruits, and some of these guys are going to rise up. Curious to see who the 8 are. Maybe we'll do a show about that one day. Like, who are the 8 that are going to get a letter as a freshman? That'll be a cool show. But kudos to Freeman and his whole recruiting staff. They did a hell of a job when you look at the class top to bottom. And since we're on here real quick, the Sun Bowl, big game, man. Big game. I know it's 10th win, right? What does it mean? All that good stuff. It's the freaking Sun Bowl. Finish this semi-satisfying blah of a season, and let's go out and have some fun next Friday.
All right. We went through nearly a 2-hour show, and I didn't yell about Sam Hartman not playing in the bowl game. So there you go. How about that, guys? And we are going to end the show there. Tons of good discussion. Was not expecting the whole fantastic quarterback discussion there, which it's great to have the 3 of us on talking about quarterbacks and we're not yelling at each other. So that was a lot of fun. Really good signing day talk, and then breaking down some Notre Dame news at the beginning of the show. So really good stuff. Hit the thumbs up before you get out of here, folks. If you're listening via podcast, leave us a 5-star review if you would do so wherever you listen to this podcast. And please head over to blueandgold.com. If you're a new subscriber, sign up $1. Just $1 gets you access for 2 months. Let's do near the end of February. So please access that offer if you are new. A new subscriber at blueandgold.com. For Tim Hyde and Mike Goolsby, I'm Mike Singer. Hit that like button. And as always, folks, we will catch you next time.